Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. My name is Matt. I know this podcast is quite new, but some of you have been following along for a while now. As you may have noticed, the narrator has changed a couple of times already in just a few months. The truth is, the podcast has been growing extremely slow, and basically nobody has left us any reviews so far. I'm here as the new voice of the podcast and would love to stick around, but I need your support to do so. Please, if you enjoy our content, it would mean so much to us if you could just leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you use. Now, take a deep breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. You have found your way here in search of rest and tranquility, and you have chosen well. Take a moment now to settle into a comfortable position. Allow your head to sink into the pillow. Let your arms rest softly by your sides, and breathe in a gentle wave of calm. As you exhale, imagine releasing all the small tensions of the day, letting every worry and concern slip away. In this story, you will be guided to a quiet, mist-shrouded place known as Ivy Keep, perched in the Scottish Isles where the fog meets the rolling rain. You will find yourself lulled by the sound of raindrops and the gentle hush of wind through ivy-laden walls. Before we begin, take one more deep breath. Feel your chest rise with the fresh air, and as you breathe out, sense the hush around you, growing deeper. The tale now beckons, an invitation into another realm, where quiet old stone walls and a tender rain conspire to draw you into peaceful slumber. Far away, in the land of the Scottish Isles, an ancient keep stood resolute against a landscape shaped by wind and waves. The keep, cloaked in thick green ivy, rose from a cluster of rugged hills, like a secret whispered across centuries. It was called Ivy Keep, for the vines that hugged its every stone, weaving a shawl of emerald leaves over time-worn grey walls. Narrow windows perched in uneven rows, peering out across the land as though they, too, were seeking solace in the rain and the swirling mist. On a morning washed pale with a delicate drizzle, a solitary figure arrived upon the path that wound through the moor. Cloaked in soft wool, this traveler walked at a gentle pace, unhurried by any pressing matter. Damp hair curled at the edges of a hood, and boots pressed quietly into the mossy ground, leaving barely a trace in the softened earth. Each breath of the cool air brought a sense of renewal, as though the traveler's spirit was steadily unburdened of all concerns, gently drawn into the fresh, rain-scented hush. Reaching the broad archway that served as Ivy Keep's entrance, the visitor paused to take in the subtle grandeur. The keep's impressive doors of weathered oak stood partly ajar, revealing a shaded courtyard within. Rainwater pooled in small depressions on the flagstones, reflecting a sky of gentle silver. Overhead, soft clouds draped themselves across the horizon, and the distant core of seabirds merged with the patter of raindrops. This was not a place of grand events or bustling crowds. Rather, it seemed a sanctuary, a haven shaped by the centuries and by the peace that often accompanies quiet perseverance. Ivy Keep was watched over by a modest caretaker. His name was Adair, a man of simple kindness and unspoken devotion to the old stones. He had tended the keep for as long as anyone could recall, ensuring that the ivy never grew so thick as to choke the windows, and that the walls remained sound despite the daily onslaught of wind and rain. On most days, Adair would be found tending to tasks that resonated with the steady rhythm of the place, sweeping puddles from the courtyards, trimming stray vines, or arranging fresh cuttings of heather in the keep's softly lit rooms. As the weary traveller crossed into the courtyard, Adair emerged from one of the keep's arched doorways. He offered a warm, wordless welcome, stepping out under a small overhang to keep the drizzle from soaking his threadbare cloak. His expression was calm, as though he recognized in the traveler another gentle soul who had come to rest for a time within the keep's protective walls. With a nod, he beckoned the visitor to follow him to a small chamber where a comforting fire glowed in the hearth. Inside, the keep's corridors were dim and cool, lit by slender windows that allowed drifting tendrils of fog to slip inside. Footsteps echoed softly against worn stone floors, and the hum of the outside rain merged with the subdued hush of the old halls. Passing through a tall archway, Adair led the traveller into a cozy sitting room with low-beamed ceilings. The fireplace was built of the same grey stone as the rest of the keep, and the flames within it danced in a bright hush, illuminating a comfortable seating area of wooden chairs and thick cushions. For a time, the traveller simply stood, letting the glow of the fire chase the dampness from cloak and boots. The walls were hung with modest tapestries in faded reds and greens, scenes of pastoral meadows and gentle hills. An old table, polished over the years by careful hands, bore a clay pitcher of water and a few cups. The traveller took a seat, quietly thanking Adair for the warmth of the fire and the shelter of the keep. Adair only inclined his head in acknowledgement, slipping away to prepare a small meal of warm bread and simple soup. Beyond the window, the fog continued its timeless drift across the moor, unveiling glimpses of rolling hills that were scattered with heather and gorse. The air was tinted with a soft, silvery glow, and the hush was profound, broken only by the light drum of rain on stone. Occasionally, a gentle wind picked up, causing the ivy that clung to the walls to rustle faintly, as though whispering secrets only it could know. When Adair returned, he placed a small tray at the traveller's side, offering a ladle of vegetable soup that sent curling steam into the air. The smell carried a comforting invitation. As the traveller sipped the soup, warmth spread from the center of the body outward, melting the lingering chill of the drizzly morning. Outside, the rain quickened slightly, though still gentle in its cadence, as if to remind those within the keep of nature's ever-present lullaby. In the following days, the traveller settled into a soft routine. Morning light filtered gently through the ivy-laced windows, painting subtle patterns of leaves across the floors. Each dawn was greeted with the hush of distant waves, for the sea was not far away, even if it lay hidden behind the hills and the low-hanging fog. Now and then, there was the faint cry of gulls, or the call of other seabirds echoing across the water. Their voices drifted through the mist and found their way into the quiet hearts of those who dwelt within the ancient walls. Every corner of Ivy Keep seemed to hold a story, though few of these stories were ever truly spoken. Rather, they lived in the gentle outlines of worn staircases, in the softened edges of stone archways, and in the footprints left by many who had passed through before. The traveler explored these halls slowly, pausing often to notice small details. A mosaic upon the floor that depicted curling vines and tiny blossoms. The carved lintel above a chamber door with a delicate knot design, and the way each candle holder was shaped like a slender branch. Adair would often appear in these wanderings, not intruding, but offering a kindly presence, much like the steady caretaker he was. Sometimes he carried a small broom to dust away leaves that had drifted in through the open windows, or he might be found gently wiping the panes of glass to banish the haze that collected there in the morning hours. In all that he did, he moved quietly, as though the keep itself were a sleeping creature, and he minded it with the tenderness of a loyal friend. Rain was the keeper's constant companion. The traveler, observing this, discovered that the keep was never completely silent. At any moment, one could pause and hear the soft drip of water from eaves, the peaceful gurgle of rain along the gutters, and the steady hush of droplets falling into the courtyard's mossy corners. Now and again, a stronger gust of wind would set the ivy trembling, sending a gentle ripple through the greenery that cloaked the walls. And at times, the mist would gather so thickly that it was as though the outside world dissolved, leaving only the keep and the quiet presence of the land around it. As the traveler's days merged one into another, sleep itself came more easily each night. Drifting off felt as simple as listening to the muffled lullaby of raindrops on the window. The room where the traveler slept was small and neat, with a window draped by a sheer curtain of lace. Through this window, glimpses of the courtyard were visible, and each dawn the light was faintly green, filtered through the ivy that climbed across the glass. The bed was modest, but comfortable, covered in soft woolen blankets that held the mild scent of lavender, dried and placed among linens to soothe the mind. One afternoon, as a gentle drizzle pattered overhead, the traveler discovered a hidden corner of the keep. Down a narrow flight of stone steps, lit by the soft glow of a lantern, a small library revealed itself. Shelves lined the walls, filled with old tomes whose spines bore faded titles. A single arched window peered out onto the hillside, though at present it was obscured by the swirling fog. A plush armchair sat near the shelves, upholstered in deep emerald fabric. The traveler sank into it, taking in the musty yet comforting scent of parchment and leather bindings. Within this library, one could pass the hours reading softly spun tales of the Isles, accounts of travelers long forgotten, and the gentle lore of the keep's past. There were stories of humble celebrations once held in the courtyard, gatherings where soft music, mingled with the hush of the sea breeze. There were mentions of a time when the keep belonged to an old family who cherished the ivy, encouraging it to flourish rather than cutting it back. Reading about these quiet events of days gone by, the traveler felt a sense of connection to the place, an unspoken bond with the gentle spirits who had walked these corridors long before. When the traveler finally emerged from the library, dusk was settling in. The damp air carried a faint scent of peat smoke, and a few lanterns had been lit along the corridors. Adair waited near the entrance to guide the traveler to a small dining nook for a simple evening meal. The table was already set with a bowl of warm stew, accompanied by fresh bread. Conversation was sparse, yet comforting, for words were not always necessary in such a tranquil environment. Occasionally, the keeper would mention a tidbit of local folklore or recall a rare sunny day when the entire hillside erupted in the purple glory of heather blooms. But mostly, a soft silence presided, as warm and comforting as the stone walls themselves. Night came gently to Ivy Keep, the rain often lulling itself to a mere mist in the late hours. The travelers' steps echoed through the corridors, the ancient stones carrying a gentle resonance. Shadows danced in the corners, animated by the flicker of lantern light. The travelers' thoughts grew quiet, any lingering burdens drifting away in the hush of these halls. Passing a window, there was a fleeting glimpse of the courtyard, lit faintly by a lantern Adair had left burning by the entry gate. Raindrops glimmered upon the ivy leaves, tiny jewels in the night. Sleep, when it came, wrapped the traveler in a deep, peaceful rest. It was not a slumber forced by exhaustion or weariness, but rather a natural lull, born of a place where time seemed to move more slowly. Dreams, if they arrived, were hushed visions of green meadows and softly falling rain, echoes of the peaceful hours spent among these old stones. In the morning, the traveler awoke, feeling gently renewed, stirred by the first pale light that wove through the lace curtain and the comforting patter of a new day's drizzle. On a particularly misty day, the traveler decided to explore the outer grounds beyond the keep's courtyard. Softly stepping over the wet flagstones and through the archway, the world outside appeared as a hazy tapestry of rolling hills. The path wound between tall grasses that swayed in the gentle breeze, and droplets of moisture beaded upon every blade, shimmering in the muted daylight. Occasionally, the traveler paused to take in the view of the sea, visible in glimpses through a thin veil of mist. The ocean's color was a washed-out slate, blending seamlessly with the gray sky above, and the hush of distance made it seem like a softly murmuring spirit far below the cliffs. Further along, nestled by a crumbling portion of the keep's outer wall, a small garden peeked out. Heather, thyme, and a few hardy herbs grew there in neat rows. Adair's touch was evident in the tidy arrangement, each cluster carefully tended, despite the harsh sea winds. In the center stood a well, its stones slick with constant moisture, and an iron handle that squeaked ever so slightly when turned. The traveler watched droplets fall into the well's dark depths, each tiny splash echoing gently, as though in conversation with the steady patter of the rain. Returning to the keep, the traveler found that the warmth of the interior fire never failed to soothe. Shoes were left by the hearth to dry, and in their place, Adair brought woolen slippers woven in soft greens and browns. With each passing day, a sense of belonging deepened. It was as if Ivy Keep, in its patient stillness, accepted those who came in peace and longing for rest. The thick walls, entwined with ivy, formed a protective cocoon that let the traveler's mind drift unhurriedly toward a state of quiet contentment. As evening wore on, the traveler watched the rain from a window seat. Outside, the courtyard puddles reflected the few lanterns lit around the keep, each reflection wavering softly with the motion of raindrops. The traveler noticed how the ivy leaves would glisten under this faint light, each one a tiny mirror catching the glow. In the distance, the hills were lost to darkness and mist, though a hush of wind hinted at their ever-present form. In this subdued, glowing scene, there was no urgency, only a calm acceptance of nightfall. Sometimes, the traveler would see Adair pass by a corridor with a small bundle of dry kindling for the fire, or a soft linen to wipe the condensation off the window panes. Their lives seemed woven into a small tapestry of shared routines. The lighting of lanterns, the stoking of the fireplace, the brief exchange of words about the next day's weather. Nothing grand or alarming ever disturbed the days at Ivy Keep. Instead, time felt fluid, an unbroken ribbon of gentle experiences, each one as soft and enduring as the ivy leaves themselves. Whenever fatigue weighed upon the traveler, they could return to the library or the sitting room, often to find a comfortable chair or a window nook. The hush of the rain was constant company, like a lullaby that followed them from chamber to chamber. Sometimes, the traveler read quietly from an old manuscript, letting the rhythmic sound of rainfall form the perfect backdrop to the softly rustling pages. Other times, the traveler simply gazed at the glow of the fireplace, lulled by the dance of embers until eyelids grew heavy and thoughts grew distant. On a day when the clouds seemed to hang even lower than usual, the sound of thunder rumbled softly over the sea. Rain fell in earnest, pattering against the roof in a steady, soothing torrent. The traveler found solace in a small corner of the keep overlooking the courtyard. Here, large windows framed the outdoors, revealing the mesmerizing lines of raindrops tracing their paths down the panes. Adair placed a blanket over the traveler's shoulders and left quietly, the hush intensifying around them. In that moment, the traveler's gaze fell upon the swirling fog and the glistening leaves of ivy, each droplet a testament to the gentle power of the storm. It was in such moments that Ivy Keep revealed its essence, a place where even stormy weather became a tranquil symphony. The old stones had stood through countless storms, greeting each with the same patient endurance. They had felt the winds shift from gentlest breeze to roaring gale, and still they remained, wrapped in the soft embrace of ivy. The spirit of the keep lived in its acceptance of nature's gentle tears and fierce tempests alike, welcoming both as part of the same endless lullaby. Sometimes, Adair would recite a small poem in his quiet voice, words that echoed through the corridor like a distant memory. He spoke of the keep's earliest days, when a solitary mason laid the first stones and invited the ivy to grow, hoping it would guard the walls from the weather's worst. Over time, the vines took on the role of sentinel, weaving and growing in a silent testament to resilience. The keep was always meant to be a refuge, he said. It stands for those who seek a corner of peace amid the swirl of the world. At twilight, the rain thinned to a soft drizzle, allowing the mist to carry the color of the setting sun in faint pink and lavender hues. The traveler stood upon the keep's outer walkway, looking out over the hills. Candlelight from within the keep's windows glowed warmly, inviting, like a beacon of comfort for anyone wandering across the moor. This moment was fleeting, for soon the colors of dusk deepened into the calm of night. One by one, the windows brightened with lamplight, and the traveler turned to re-enter the keep, heart softened by a sense of belonging. That night, as the traveler prepared for rest, there was a particular hush that settled in the corridors. Each step felt lighter, each breath more serene. Raindrops tiptoed across the windows, an ever-faithful lullaby. The bed's blankets felt especially welcoming, their gentle weight providing warmth and security. Darkness enveloped the keep, yet it was not an unsettling darkness. Rather, it was a gentle cloaking, a velvet night that drew close to whisper softly that all was well. The traveler closed their eyes, lulled by the hush and the faint echo of the ocean's distant murmur. When morning arrived, another day began with the quiet patter of rain and the subtle glow of fog-shrouded light. The traveler rose, wandering through the corridors where the air still held the faint scent of last night's embers. Adair had already tended to the fireplace, leaving it to smolder gently. A new pot of tea steamed nearby, and the traveler poured a cup, savoring the warmth that radiated through hands and heart. Leaning against the windowsill, the traveler observed the courtyard anew. Small rivulets of water trickled between the stones, and the ever-present ivy leaves swayed in delicate patterns. Through these days, the traveler learned that even the smallest tasks could become a source of calm. Polishing a pane of glass revealed the soft green world outside. Tidying the library's shelves became an immersion in history and memory. Setting the table for a simple meal highlighted the quiet camaraderie that existed in sharing a space. In the hush of this ancient keep, life was stripped back to essentials, allowing the mind and spirit the freedom to breathe without urgency. In time, the sky offered a slight shift. One morning, the clouds parted, just enough for a gentle, pearly light to filter through. It was not bright sunlight, but rather a subtle glow that turned the raindrops into shimmering beads upon the ivy. The traveler felt a soft amazement at how the keep changed in this lighter hue, as though it took on a contented sigh of relief that even within perpetual mist and drizzle, a moment of gentle brightness could appear. Adair, noticing the faint glow, smiled and stepped out into the courtyard. He trailed his fingers across the ivy leaves, flicking droplets into the air. The traveler watched him from one of the stone archways, moved by how much care he showed for the keep's greenery. "It's a living part of this place," he remarked softly when he noticed the traveler's gaze. "We belong to each other. The ivy, the walls, and everyone who steps inside seeking solace." Encouraged by this momentary lull in the rain, the traveler joined Adair in the courtyard. Together they circled the perimeter, taking in the subtle lines of cracks in the old stones and ensuring that no fallen branch or cluster of debris lay blocking the narrow passageways. Quiet tasks like these felt almost meditative, each motion as gentle and measured as a lullaby. Even as they worked, the sky overhead shifted from one shade of grey to another, never fully clearing but offering just enough light to kindle gratitude for the calm day. When evening approached, the rain returned, though in a milder form, as though nature itself sensed the keep's invitation to serenity. Dinner was a simple affair, with a small loaf of bread baked over the coals and a stew of root vegetables that filled the air with a homely aroma. The traveler and Adair shared this meal in contented silence, occasionally exchanging glances that held a wordless affirmation. There was no better place to be, no pressing matter more important than the gentle act of nourishment and rest. In the days that followed, the traveler's exploration of the keep continued. Hidden alcoves, deserted corridors, and small stairways each revealed new glimpses of soft, mossy stone and trailing ivy. Sometimes, in a moment of quiet wonder, the traveler would find a window that overlooked the ever-moving fog, revealing only the faint silhouettes of distant hills. At other times, a small chamber might appear, lined with dusty trinkets that hinted at memories of past dwellers. Everything about Ivy Keep seemed saturated with a gentle, living history, one not scrawled in bold lines, but whispered through the interplay of nature and time. Eventually, the traveler's thoughts turned toward the idea of leaving, for all journeys do reach a point of onward motion. Yet the notion of parting from Ivy Keep brought a soft pang, as though leaving a beloved sanctuary. Adair, sensing this inner stirring, offered a quiet smile and a few comforting words. "This place has been here for more years than any of us can count," he said. "Those who come find a piece of its peace, and when they leave, they carry that peace within them. In that way, Ivy Keep travels with them in spirit." On a final afternoon, the traveler took one last walk beyond the keep's walls, letting the drizzle settle upon a warm cloak and feeling the cool, damp air fill each breath. The path felt both familiar and new, the stones offering a gentle footing as if in friendship. Pausing upon a small outcrop of rock, the traveler looked back at Ivy Keep. The walls stood strong and quiet, half concealed by the swirling fog, while the dark green ivy shimmered in the gentle rain. Light touched the highest towers, outlining the keep in a soft glow. In that image, the traveler found a deep sense of calm that quieted any lingering restlessness. Returning to the keep before nightfall, the traveler shared one last simple meal of tea and warm bread with Adair. They spoke little, for words felt unnecessary. Rain whispered outside, and the keep's dim lanterns provided a subdued glow. Warmth lingered in the air, not just from the fire, but from a kindness that seemed inherent to the walls themselves. When the meal was finished, the traveler retreated to the room, where blankets and soft cushions promised a restful sleep. There, a final night was spent in tranquil slumber, punctuated only by the gentle music of wind and rain. Morning arrived quietly, and the traveler packed the few belongings that had been carried inside. Adair accompanied the traveler to the doorway, offering a steady handshake and a fond farewell. The old caretaker did not look saddened. Rather, there was a calm acceptance in his eyes, as if to say that parting is a natural step, and Ivy Keep would remain, waiting for any who yearn for its sanctuary. With a grateful bow, the traveler stepped out into the mist, leaving footprints in the moist earth that would soon be washed away by the drizzle. The path stretched ahead, leading back through the moorland. Fog drifted around the traveler's ankles, and the wind carried the smell of heather and salt from the distant sea. Within moments, Ivy Keep disappeared into the soft gloom, hidden once more behind its curtain of rain and climbing ivy. But the traveler felt its presence as a gentle warmth in the mind, a steady reminder of a place where old stones and green vines offer rest to the weary. As the distance grew, the traveler paused to look back one last time, though the keep was no longer visible. That did not matter. In the traveler's heart, the memory of Ivy Keep glowed softly, like a lantern shielded by the hush of ancient walls. Rain kept falling, droplets pattering on hood and cloak, yet each drop was a soothing echo of the quiet hours spent behind ivy-clad battlements. With a calm sigh, the traveler resumed the journey, carrying forward the gentle spirit of that foggy keep, hidden on a rainy isle. Now, let the memory of Ivy Keep settle around you in these final moments. Let your thoughts drift, unhurried and light, as though they too were carried by the soft mist. Imagine the steady patter of rain upon ancient stones, the rustling of ivy leaves, the warm glow of embers in a secluded hearth. Picture the winding corridors and the tender hush that guided the traveler's footsteps. Feel the weight of the blankets drawing warmth around your shoulders, and remember that calm acceptance that lingered in every room. You have journeyed far in spirit to a place shaped by ancient walls and quiet rain. And now it is time to close your eyes, to rest as the traveler did within those ivy-covered rooms. Sink deeper into the softness of your bed. Let every muscle ease, every thought slow, each breath gently guiding you toward deeper peace. The hush of Ivy Keep is with you, cushioning your mind and heart with the gentle sound of rain and the scent of green vines. May your dreams be as calming and endless as the mist that drifts across those Scottish hills. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well.